talking about the number of female ministers in the new cabinet. That's the crux of our next discussion now. In the studio with me is publisher of the Scroll magazine, Janet Mba-Afolabi, and women rights activist Bukky Shonibare, who joins me via Skype from Abuja. Good morning to you, ladies.
Good morning.
Welcome, Janet, and welcome, Bukky. Let me begin with you, Bukky, now. What's your perception to this number of female ministers?
Disappointing figure, considering that in 2015 we had 6 out of 42 ministers as women, and now we have 7 out of 43. That is like 16.3% female representation, and it speaks to not a depth in qualified or number of qualified women in Nigeria. It speaks to how backward we still are, how much we are still not prioritizing the issue of ensuring that women play critical role in leadership. And if you note of the we keep throwing figures as to what our population is, but let's even play with 180 million. We know that over 49% of Nigeria's population are women. So if we have that number, and we know that during election, we have a lot of women that usually participate. In fact, in 2019, of the over 84 million people that registered to vote, 47.14%, that is over 40 million, were actually women. Now, by the time you begin to look at the role women play during the election period and beyond that, we know that it is quite important to ensure that women play a critical role if we really want to be a progressive.
Oh, okay, Bukky, let me put you on hold and then get the views of Janet here with me. Well, the president had said he would only appoint ministers whom he knew. So do you see like a limitation in this regard? Now, maybe he didn't have enough women that he could pick from.
Of course, there are enough women who could be picked from, who actually merit it, because in his campaign, he promised that there will be 35, he will actualize the 35%.
So what do you think went wrong this time around?
I think it's just about the willpower to include women in political leadership. If you make a promise, it is honorable to keep the promise, because some women groups and individuals are coming out to say, let us hold the president accountable for the promise he made. The president of Women in Politics Forum, Ebere Fifendo, she has actually come out to say, we the women need to hold him and say, you promised us 35% in the campaign. And based on that, many women came out to vote, believing that they will be represented. And the problem about these promises sometimes made by politicians, not only the president, is that they do not see promises as a vow, they don't see promises as an agreement, and they don't see promises as a debt.
So when they don't see these promises as, you know, binding on them and people, so what choices do they have? You talk about them as this group holding the president of account, but do they really have much of a choice?
You know why they can't have much to hold him on? Because it is not in the Constitution. When the bill for the 35% affirmative action was brought to the National Assembly, the 8th Assembly, they rejected it. So there is no basis for holding anybody accountable. It could have been possible in a country like Rwanda. Rwanda has in its constitution 30%. So if you do not appoint 30% of women in leadership position, someone can go to court because there is a basis for it. But now legally, it's just a mere promise, a campaign promise for that matter, and women are complaining, they feel marginalized. We are part of women, so I can also speak for them. We, the women, are feeling marginalized. We are feeling that this is another round of low representation of women in political leadership, and that women need to be included. Lagos State has done well. Sanwo-Olu, he brought 32% of women into his cabinet, and many women are really applauding him. Meanwhile, the federal has 16%. It is not even half of the 35%.
Janet, kindly hold that interesting view there. Now, back to you, Bukky. Well, it's arguable that perhaps the most prominent role given to the women is that of the finance and budget and national planning. We are seeing that lumped together as obtained before the president's first term. Talking about this huge mandate on Zainab Ahmed now, and of course looking at what roles the other women have. Do you think, the women, got substantial appointments?
Substantial is more, right? It's not about the depth of it. And I'm careful to compare the different positions. Yes, a woman has been put in that very critical position. It is good. But by the time we begin to argue on the basis of the skills, particularly the fact that, that huge position was given to a woman, we would be shutting our eyes to the main issue at hand, which is the fact that we expect that at least 35% of women should be represented, which is at least 15%. And it will give us a ratio of about 28 to 15. So yes, a woman got that position, but until we are able to have more women in representative, in appointive and elective position, then we are still not talking about the critical thing. Whether a woman is the Minister of Power, whether a woman is the Minister of Finance, or whether a woman is the Minister of any other ministry is not what really matters. What really matters, and which must focus on, is the fact that we want more women, at least 35%. And like what my colleague said, permit me to just quickly say that for countries that have ensured that women play more role in leadership positions, they are intentional about it. It takes radicality of a leader to get to the point where he says that, you know what, I want more women in my cabinet. And it takes progressiveness. We know, of course, how a nation will not move forward until we have more women in particular positions.
All right.
So until we do that, then we are not being radical and we are not being progressive.
All right, Bukky Shonibare, we appreciate your contributions on TVC Breakfast this morning. Janet Mba-Afolabi, thank you very much.